The chest drop, the tight stomach, the sudden urge to scrap the whole damn thing and start over. That was not fear of failure. That was a soldier running a mission you never, ever approved. Today, I'm talking with Elizabeth Coles. Elizabeth is a therapist and trauma specialist and the kind of person who will burn down a room, herself included, in the name of what's right. She works with creatives, entrepreneurs, and people who keep wondering why discipline never seems to stick. Today, she's going to break down the internal team wiring your nervous system without your permission and how to take back command. This is your mic. Let's go. Elizabeth, let's talk about the soldiers killing creativity.
Well, I wouldn't say they're killing people's creativity. I think that when they are running rogue on their own mission that you didn't decide, that's when they kill your creativity because they are made up of coping mechanisms. So like your controller, the one, who needs hyper control all the time, or the fixer, the one who fixes everyone's problems, but then no one comes and helps them. Or the guardian who stands up for the underdog or, pilots the ethics in the room. The avoider who kind of runs from problems, but people get the avoider wrong because they are useful. They temper the guardian. They all work together, but we spend our time kind of demonizing parts of our personality, being like, oh, I'm such a control freak, I'll never change, when it's a conditioned behavior. And so if you've been conditioned into it, you can be conditioned out of it.
How long does that take if it's something that is programmed from our youth based on, it could be trauma, it could be just how you were conditioned as a kid in a two-parent household? Like how long, if you're talking about someone that's in their 30s or 40s, maybe even 50s, like me, because you have all this life experience.
You have a lot of ingrained patterns. A lot of it you don't even know that you chose because when you chose those responses, you were a child. So it's like, imagine putting on a life jacket because you're going swimming, right? You need to stay safe. And so the hyper control or the fixing things is how it kept you safe in those worlds. Well, now you're a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old adult who stepped off the beach and you're still wearing your life jacket. Like it looks ridiculous when you think of it like that. I don't think there's a specific timeline. You can't really, you can't say it's going to take you 3 months, right? Because it depends on your ability to look at your own patterns, to then find correlating patterns, because it shows up with different symptoms. But people spend their time fixing the symptoms, like, oh, I'm scrolling my phone too much. I have to put a phone timer on that. Oh, I'm watching too much TV. I have to go do that. But it's like you need to get to the root cause. Otherwise, it's like a bandaid on a broken bone. It's not really going to do much.
Kind of like people with diets.
Yes. Well, yeah, people will self-sabotage their diet all the time. And it's not even because it was hard. It was because their identity was not aligned with someone who diets and someone who invests in their health and someone who comes first for once. That's why they'll reject the diet, not because they got bored.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love the analogy because if you were to lose 20 pounds over the course of a year, the next year, gain it all back plus 5.
Yeah, or lottery.
Experience. Like
yes.
Literally lower than high school weight in my late 40s, and here I'm 50, and then I gained it all back. And yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's people think like we're so, like there's so many problems, and really it's like all of our problems have usually the same roots. It's usually safety. How am I looking for safety? And then it comes into, here's your trigger points for that. It's going to be loss of control, feelings of rejection, and feelings of inadequacy. And pretty much any argument you've had or any coping mechanism you've had is to avoid those feelings.
Wow. And that seems like the life of a creator right there, because you're talking about rejection, you're talking about like self-sabotage. And it could be somebody who is a solopreneur, who's running a YouTube channel, who is a graphic designer for a 100-person employer or a large corporate team. And the rejection is real because it's like, oh, you know what, Elizabeth, we like that, but we hate this part. So can you tweak it? Elizabeth tweaks it. Yeah, we love that part, but the original part that you had that we loved, well, now we hate it because it doesn't go with what you did. Okay, so Elizabeth goes back a third time to try and fix it. And all the while, it's like, cool, you're fixing it because you want to do good. You want that approval because that's your job, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the
Yep.
same time, it's like, wow, okay, it's hard to not take personal.
It's hard to not take personal because you're living in your old stories and you don't know your body response behind it. So for me, I'm pretty good at taking feedback, but there's also times, and I have some trigger points because I've dealt with a lot of trauma in my life where those conversations are a bit harder for me. So my guardian soldier, which is like the ethics soldier, that is probably still my most like one that runs rogue and will, burn down a whole room with me in it just to prove like the ethics is right.
Give me an example of that. Sorry to cut you off, but I would love to have an example of that. It could be like makeup one, or it could be something that you've worked with.
Well, I'm getting better, but let's say like a comment. We're getting better. We're learning to not be so abrasive. There sometimes in a comment section. So I've dealt with coercive control against me in my history of life. And I've been gaslit. I've dealt with that. So I've had my reality reworked in front of me. And so this is still a hard point with content with me, that if I see someone post, but it doesn't show like the true story, I'm like, well, nope, I'm going to go correct that. That is wrong. This is going to be misleading for other people. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make you see my point. Well, and I've gotten to the point where I don't care if the original poster like is on board with me. It's more like, okay, like let's show the other side of this. But there are points when I'm dysregulated. I'm like, nope, I've got to prove this. And I have gotten better at being like, okay, Elizabeth, like this is a conversation on the internet and you have to remember what you're here to do. And that is to not fight every single battle. But it is because my history that I didn't always stand up for myself, but if there was someone else, get out of my way. I'm going to burn everything to the ground to save them.
We ride at dawn.
Right, that's pretty much my mantra. That's how I had to live the past year. We ride at dawn.
Oh, man. Okay, so in order to, and let's back up here because my guess is that in order to acknowledge or even discover this team of soldiers that's doing its thing, you have to see the pattern, and that's another one of those things that you work with your clients on. So what's an example of a pattern for somebody who has a podcast or is a designer of some sort or even an entrepreneur doing whatever?
So I do like the way I do say it, and we are going to talk about wiring and body responses, but usually your body will fire first. So say a podcaster, they're like, I just filmed this episode. Now I'm going to go, I'm like so excited about this episode. Now I'm going to go and edit it. And now I'm watching my face on the screen. And now I'm hearing my voice. And now I'm watching, what I say and why I say and where I'm looking. Well, now my chest feels like it's like sinking, like almost like someone just punched me in the chest. And now my stomach's tight. And now, my shoulders, my skin feels like it's crawling. You know what? No, this is not good. I'm just not going to put this out there. No, we need to redo this. I don't like anything about this. I don't want to show my face. Nope. Cancel it all. We're redoing it.
Are you speaking from personal experience?
Well, of course. I use a lot of my stuff for personal experience.
Oh, my.
I've deep dove into my psyche as well as like watched everyone around, but it's not a one-off. Like, tell me how many people also do that, but most people cop to it.
Yeah. Well, and I concur because I spent about 25 years-ish on the radio before launching a podcast production company and then having this podcast about podcasting. And I can tell you right now, I did not like listening to myself on the radio. And we would have these things in my previous career called air checks with our program director. And they were like the program directors in charge of the DJs, right? So the program director, Elizabeth, would be sitting with Freddy in an office listening to every single break. So, Freddy, what'd you think about that? Well, Freddy, what'd you think about that? What could you have done wrong? What did you do wrong? How would you have done that differently? And it was like, I'm surprised I never broke out in hives.
Did you ever, because sometimes people default to this, did you get to the point where you would almost like preemptively, like before they even said, what did you do wrong? You would tell them what you did wrong?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would pick my worst show because it would be a once a week thing. So they're not going to go through, 5 days of breaks. That would be a 3-hour meeting and not sustainable for a team of radio personalities. So I would intentionally pick my worst day, or what I thought would be my worst day.
But that's also a control response because you already know. I already know it's my worst. You won't catch me off guard because I picked this because it is my worst. So you're not going to catch me off guard.
Interesting you say that, because I always thought, why have somebody critique my best if I know it's my best without even being like, and I'm no mind reader. So it could have been something I thought was my best show and they would have said, yeah, that show sucked.
Yeah. Well, like it's kind of both, right? Because I agree with you. Why would you sign up for feedback to only want feedback that is just agreeing with you? Like you do need to, if you're going to ask for it, you have to be prepared to receive it. But there is that other control part that, I also don't want someone, this is what I think is my best episode. I don't want to hear it's not the best. And so if I have to bring it to them and they tell me that, so there's a bunch of moving parts going on at once is why, we need context and nuance, because the context is what separates the shame from the story that you are telling yourself.
So what would you tell a creative who is working with a client? And I'm not speaking from personal experience in this context. I know that a lot of us can get into our feelings within ourselves, but then also if somebody is sharing a video that they did and they're sharing it with someone they care about, and then that person that they care about's like, yeah, you know what? It was all right. And it was something that we worked for hours on, and you're like, it's just okay?
It was really good. Yeah, it was so great.
Yeah,
it was great.
Okay, I'll check it out later. What?
Well, I have had that actually.
Oh, God. Okay, so how did you bounce back from that? Like, what do you tell people?
Well, so if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you have just signed up for one of the hardest fights of your life. It's kind of like parenting. Being an entrepreneur will challenge your mindset more than, a lot of other things, because you are the product, you are the work. And so that's why a lot of creatives get their back up, because it feels like your work is a part of you. And so if someone's telling me that it's wrong, you're telling me that I'm wrong. You're telling me that I'm not good enough. And that also comes into play with the capacity of your nervous system. Because we do have to have ability to have uncomfortable conversations. Most don't have the skills to do that right now. Right now, we've set up a population of everyone share your feelings, but no one knows what to do on the receiving end. So what's happening in your body as you're sitting there and getting that feedback? Well, that's when, you're getting really hot. That sweat's dripping down your back. That's your body response. And then that's what starts telling you the story. With a creative, it's like, it would depend on the person, because I do a lot of identity work. So it's like, well, why are you even saying that to begin with? Or what's more important to you? Do you want to help everyone, or do you want to make your product perfect and not help anyone? And so if their driving force is to help someone, well, you're not helping someone by making it perfect, and then it never comes out. So you have to almost create an internal friction. And you have to know your identity. What are your driving factors? For me, it's freedom. Well, how am I going to get freedom if I'm constantly scared about putting something out there? Then I'm going to have to go work for someone else. So the purpose almost has to come outside of you. And you do have to understand you are going to feel uncomfortable. Not every conversation is going to be amazing. This is part of life. But people want to bubble wrap their life so they don't feel this. If you don't feel that, you don't feel part of life. Because you can't be selectively numb.
I love selectively numb and then bubble wrapping yourself. I mean, wow. And maybe that's why there's so few of us and a lot of 9-to-5ers. And it's not an insult. It's just, it's the human condition, because that's how we're wired. We're wired for safety from dinosaur age when T-Rex was
Safety
looking
is
for
the root.
us. And it's the same.
Yep.
It's the same hardware with newer, improved technology from a 1% that actually broke free from the Matrix and created these things like the Gutenberg press, the iPhone.
Yep.
Right.
Well, what do you have? Like, it makes me laugh. I remind myself of this because it makes me laugh and it's ridiculous. Because what I'm talking about, it's not mainstream yet. So, I do have a lot of crickets at this point because I do have to refine the messaging to get, to understand where people are at. But I think of this scenario that, someone thought it'd be a great idea to invent the porcelain toilet. And can you imagine marketing that?
Yeah. Yeah.
You have to have grit and determination because,
right.
Here's where you're going to shit. Do you want to shit here? Everyone needs a great porcelain toilet. It's the best ever. Imagine marketing that. But we're scared of here's your 5-step framework.
Right. Yeah. And to piggyback on that, I did a previous episode about the guy who had figured out why so many women in the 1800s were dying at birth after having children. And they're like, he's like, wash your hands. And that's the TLDR is he's telling all of his doctor friends and colleagues, hey, wash your hands. And they're like, poppycock. That's silly. It's nonsense. We're going to carry placentas from the auditorium into the operating room. Silliness. What is this?
How could you even think that? Yeah, no, right. I know.
And I mean, he literally went mad.
Well, if you think about
story, actually.
It's dark, but I have terrible dark humor. It's how I get through life, so I kind of laugh at it. But it's so blatantly obvious that you as a creator almost feel crazy.
Yeah.
The amount of times am I delusional? How has no one seen this? But it's because it is your specialty. And even with me, when I go into some comment sections, I'm like, I don't understand. How do you guys not see that this is a massive projection you're giving right now? And it's all right, but you don't see it. And to be a creator, to be an inventor, you have to be willing to look crazy.
Right. In public and fail over and over again.
Yeah, it's with everyone seeing. And that's what's going to nail those 3 triggers in your loss of safety. That's why people dip out. It's not because, they're just not disciplined enough or they're procrastinating. Their body is running a threat response. And they don't even know it.
So we talked about the team of soldiers. We talked about the pattern. Let's dive into the mechanism. It's something about discipline doesn't override decades old wiring. Interrupting the wiring does. So how does somebody interrupt the wiring? Let's just say Elizabeth creates something and crickets. And how do you interrupt the wiring that maybe you had that's you know what, maybe this is the last time.
This is the last time. I'm never doing this again until tomorrow when I relaunch
shutting everything down. Kicks rocks.
Yeah, but I'll be back tomorrow. So first things first is your body. So I know we haven't talked about this yet, but your body will respond. That's your ignition point. And your body responses are I said, it feels like a 3-day-old bruise on your chest. If you've ever been to a funeral, that's usually what that feeling is, that grief. Or your stomach's going to drop. All of a sudden you got to go to the bathroom. Or your molars are squeezed tight. It's think of when you were a child and you heard, something in your house. You were home alone, you heard something in your house. Well, okay, maybe not a child, teenager. And all of a sudden you're like, wait, what was that? Your body did something. The hair on the back of your neck stood up, right? Because the body sensations were there before any language was ever there. Cavemen weren't doing literary works of art. Animals don't even have language. And so the body is the language. That is your initiator. Then what happens is you produce an emotion. And then after the emotion comes the story. So something you hear in your house, body stands on alert, that fear response is inside. And then you're like, oh my God, someone's in my house. Someone's coming to get me. What do I need to do to prepare? Let me go get a knife. And really all that happened was a sweater fell in the corner. But you created this entire scenario in your head of what was going to happen. And that wasn't the truth, but you don't look at it because it's too scary to look at. And if you just looked and found the sweater that fell, you could stop that constant loop in your brain. So when I, have that point where it's like, okay, this didn't do well. Oh, I'm just giving up. Well, what happens usually in my body first is that grief response, that shame response of, oh, you're like, here's the pain in my chest. Okay, well, yeah, you didn't do it right. You're not good enough. You're never going to mount. And it's like this cycle. So now I'm like, wait. Is this an old story? Let me separate my body response. Okay, my body just feels like that because of an old story that I keep telling myself. But here's what the fact is. I posted something. To me, it didn't do too well. Okay, let's refine it. It's not really that big of a deal. We just place so much emotional attachment while we're pretending we're not emotional creatures.
Man, okay. Well, as we wrap up, yeah. I just got to say, this has all been really insightful, and I really enjoyed reading your work and learning more about your process on YouTube. Y'all check her out. It's The Mind Madam, and the website is elizabethcoles.com. Talk about the new book coming out.
So this new book I'm excited about because I've taken 5 patterns that we run, the controller, the avoider, guardian, all the people I mentioned, but we're going to gamify it. So this is like, here's your character. Here's their origin point, how they got made. Here's what, powers them down. Here's what lifts them up. Here's where you should deploy them, where you shouldn't deploy them. And then we're going to go into actual scenarios because you don't just have soldiers. I have soldiers. Your whole team has soldiers. And that's where team breakdowns happen. Relationships have soldiers. And everyone's running these outdated patterns. No one's making progress. So we're going to go into these missions. Here's how you can, find in yourself. Here's some protocols to stop it. So I have my more targeted questions in there and into body response and identity. So I wanted it to feel more like play because it is a heavy topic. I mean, no one's like, oh, I can't wait to examine my internal patterns that have been running since I was a child. That sounds great. No,
it sounds Netflix.
Yeah, let me just put my insides on this table and examine them. That sounds like a really awesome time. No, if we can create, said no one ever. Yeah, that's why I know it's a passion project because who in their right mind would do this? But I wanted to help people, and I feel like by giving characters, you can separate yourself from the character. It's no longer, oh, I'm the avoider, so I'm worthless. It's more like, oh, my avoider soldier just ran there. Oh, actually, this person, I need an avoider soldier right now because I need to take myself out of this situation. So it's like playing G.I. Joes with your nervous system. That's what I say.
Well, you got a way with words, I can tell you that. ElizabethColes.com is the website. You can check out her upcoming book, connect with her on YouTube, Spotify, Instagram. Elizabeth, congratulations on the upcoming project. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us on your mic.
Well, thank you for having me.